President Trump today held a high-stakes phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The call took place this morning after Trump first spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke to reporters on Air Force Two ahead of the phone call, having this to say.
I'm not sure that Vladimir Putin has a strategy himself for how to unwind the war, of course, that's been going on for a few years now.
Trump has grown frustrated with Putin and Zelensky, according to the White House, with White House press secretary today reiterating the president is trying to fix a problem he inherited by Joe Biden. Joining us now with more on this crucial phone call is the Hill staff writer Niall Stanage. Niall, what, if any, progress do we know was made today?
We don't know that there was much substantive progress made, Judy, I don't think. What we know from a readout from Russian media is that Vladimir Putin said that the call was informative. He said that some of the discussions were frank. But at this stage in the game, obviously a lot is going to depend on the specifics. And we didn't get a lot of specifics. So in general terms, if you wanted to be generous about it, I suppose the vibes were positive, but a lot of detail yet to be filled out.
Positive vibes. Moscow released a readout of the call with Trump. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that it's interesting that they're trying to stay on board with Trump or aligned with Trump. One of the interesting things about this conflict in recent weeks, Judy, is that President Trump seems to have ricocheted around a little. There was that famously combative meeting with President Zelensky in the Oval Office, which seemed to signal Trump basically abandoning Ukraine and being much more supportive of Russia. But as you mentioned in your introduction, Trump has been much more frustrated with Putin of late. So I think this generally broadly positive readout from Moscow does suggest that they're not wanting at least to get crosswise with Trump, even though, of course, they have their own objectives when it comes to any end of this conflict.
Niall, as you know, Trump promised to end the war before entering office, something he's months behind in keeping. If Trump doesn't get the answers he wanted from Putin today, could we see the U.S. pull out of efforts to end this war?
It seems like we could. And in fact, Vice President Vance, in another part of the conversation that you excerpted that clip from, did basically say that. He essentially said that the U.S. was going to put a lot of effort in right now, but if there was no ceasefire, that would be that. Now, obviously, if the US walks away, that would seem to, in effect, aid Russia, because Russia's a much bigger nation, it has a much larger army, and Ukraine has been very dependent upon aid from the US and some of its European allies. So if Washington were to walk away, that would have the actual effect of helping Vladimir Putin in his war aims.
Niall Stanage, thanks very much for your insight.
Thanks, Judy.